Hello everybody, my name is Pauline Cordiner. I'm a storyteller based in the northeast of Scotland and I have a story for you today. As part of Tag Team Tales, we're going to be sharing stories throughout this time when maybe some folk are all trapped indoors and looking for a bit of entertainment. So the story I'm going to tell today is from a book of Estonian Folk Tales, which I got from Colin McAllister, an Irish storyteller that lives in Scotland. This story is called All Three. He was a mean old man. He owned 3 tenements, 1, 2 and 3. And it was the 3rd of March. When he took his gold-topped cane and he marched through the streets to flat number 3. And in there lived the widow Mackenzie and her 3 children, 1, 2 and 3. She'd only just lost her husband. He had worked down one of the miser's mines. He owned 3 mines, 1, 2 and 3. And an explosion had killed many of the men. The wives and the children were left with no money, no means of survival. And yet that man came on that night and he threw her and her family, her children, out into the street because she could not afford to pay the rent. Everybody hated him. He owned houses. He owned mines. He owned mills. And despite all the money that he had, there wasn't a small, tiny grain of kindness in his heart. All he was interested in was the money that he could earn, the money he could accumulate. In fact, it was the day after he threw out the widow and her 3 children, 1, 2, 3, that his housekeeper did something to upset him. Something tiny, something small. But he threw it out and she said, slamming the door, "Good luck finding someone that'll put up with your crap the way that I've put up with it. You will never find a housekeeper that'll work for the wages you pay me." And off she went, hopefully to a better life. Now, the miser, the next day, went across the road with his walking stick and he went across to the post office and he spoke to the 3 old gossipy wifeys that work there, 1, 2, 3, and he said to them, "I've got a postcard to put in your window. You'll share it for me, free, of course." "Aye, aye," they said. And as soon as he was gone, they read it, and it read, "Housekeeper wanted. Rent, you don't need to worry about that. Come work for me and you'll get board for free. No pay. Some food paid for." And up it went in the window. And there the card got old and yellow and curled in the sunlight until she came to town. She had long blonde hair, beautiful, straight. It was the only thing about her that was straight. She was big, she was curvy, she had a big bum, a big belly and a big everything else beside, and she walked with all the confidence of a woman who ruled the earth. And she strode into town and the people smiled because in a world that was owned by the miser, it was nice to see someone well fed. And she walked up to the window of the post office and she read the cards of the people who were looking for nannies, gardeners, for handymen and for housekeepers. And she saw the card that had been left by the old miser and she went into the shop. She picked it up out of the window and the 3 wee gossipy wifeys, 1, 2, 3, said, "Did I go work for him, Queenie?" "Oh no, No, a lassie like you deserves much better. You could find yourself a nice husband. But she didn't. She took that card and she smiled. And out she went, and she walked across, and she found the house, and she knocked on the door. It took him 3 minutes to get to the door. 1, 2, 3. And when he came, he opened it up and he went, "Well, what do you want?" "I'm here about the job," she said. He took one look at her curves, and he said, "You said I would be paying for food. I wouldn't be paying for a whole mountain of it. I'm only employing you. You look like you eat too much." And she said, No, you're fine. It's all right. I don't need to eat. I'm from a family that's blessed. "What's that?" he said. "Hi, it's all right. All I need to do is I need to open up the window and take 3 deep breaths of air. 1, 2, 3. Like this. And that's me fed for the day." "Really?" said the miser, his eyes twinkling with thought of, he wouldn't need to pay for food for her. She had the job. Well, she did her job well. Every time that he was sitting in his counting house, counting his money, counting his coins, 1, 2, 3, she would make sure that he would see her. She was hard at work, she cleaned, she cooked, she was perfect in every way. And at least 3 times a day, she would let him see her open up the window, stick her head out and breathe. 1, 2, 3. And he never saw her eat. But she was clever. Every night, when he went to bed, the figures were adjusted in his ledger. The money was taken, food was bought, and so she retained her beautiful curves. Day after day he watched her. Day after day he lusted after her. Until one day he thought to himself, "Well, I'm no getting any younger." I would like to say that he got down on one knee, but he was that old that if he got down on one knee, he wasn't getting back up again. But still, he managed to propose to her. He popped the question, "But you wouldn't be needing a ring." "You're our bonny for that. There's no point in decorating something already so beautiful. And we wouldn't need a wedding, just a wee blessing. Make it official, doing at the kirk. And we'll have cucumber sandwiches afterwards." To everybody's surprise, she said yes. And they were married. And every day after the wedding, she cooked, she cleaned, and she provided her wifely duties, but every day she made sure that he could see her, sticking her head out the window and taking those 3 deep breaths. And it seemed as if she didn't need to be fed. Can you imagine? It was a dream for him. He thought he had it made. They were happily married for a whole year. And she decided she'd had enough. So a day she went outside. Now, he kept chickens. Guess how many there were? 3. 1, 2, 3. Which laid eggs for the old miser every day. 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. And after she went and collected in the eggs, he was watching her as usual. He couldn't believe his luck. He could see her out the window. He could see her through the hatch all the way through to the kitchen, and he watched her as she went out after he'd had his breakfast. What was she doing? She was picking up the chicken. She picked up the first chicken and she raxed its neck. "What's she doing to my chickens?" he said. "I only ever instructed her that I was to have 3 boiled eggs for breakfast. I didn't think that she... Why is she killing my birds?" She laid it down. She went for the second one. She picked it up. She comforted it, and then she waxed its neck and 2 birds dead out of 3. The third was to follow. It died quicker than the rest, and then she took the 3 dead birds into the kitchen, and he watched her prepare them. They were plucked, they were gutted, they were basted, and they were popped into the great big oven that was never used because, well, you know, that would cost fuel, and anyway he wasn't cooking anything that would need an oven, and she certainly wasn't, because all she needed to do every day was take 3 big breaths of air. 1, 2, 3. But this day was different. 3 hours those chickens were cooked, and when they were cooked, they were cooked to perfection. He could smell them. He was drooling. He never allowed himself this kind of food. And then he watched her as she took them out of the oven, and she laid them on the griddle, 1, 2, and 3. And she sat down and she pulled a leg off of one of the birds, and she started to eat it. She ate, and she ate, and she ate, the juices drooling down her chin, down her neck, and he watched as she ate the entire chicken all to herself, and he thought to himself, what about the 3 breaths, 1, 2, 3 a day? The first chicken was soon polished off, and she didn't even look at him. But she stood up, she turned round, she went to where the chicken was cooling, and she brought out number 2. This time she started with the breast meat. She dug her hand in, brought out a fistful of beautiful succulent flesh, and ate it. He started to feel a little bit hot, and then a little bit cold, and then a little bit dizzy, and by the time that the colour drained from his face, she had finished bird number 2. And then, of course, you know what's happening. She went for the 3rd chicken. That was picked up. And that was eaten. A little bit slower this time. But by the time she was just plucking out the oysters from beneath the chicken and licking the fat and the juices off her finger, he wasn't so well. His heart didn't feel the way that it always had. He was short of breath. His breath was shallow. His face was pale. He was starting to sweat, and the pain down his left arm, and he called to her, "My dear." It was only then that she looked up from the chicken carcasses, and she stood up and she walked into the room. "Oh, my love," she said, "you don't look so well. Are you quite all right?" The village doctor, he said. Call him quick." "Of course," she said, "of course." And she stood up and she ran outside of his townhouse. She wasn't gone long, about 3 minutes, 1, 2, 3, and she came in. The doctor took one look at the old man and ordered that he was carried upstairs to his bed, where he lay. "Shallow-breathed, clearly," said the doctor. "This is a heart attack. Have you any idea what might have caused it?" "No," said his wife, "no." "Oh my goodness, what should I do? Is he unwell?" "It's not me," he said, "that you should be calling. It's the undertaker." "Oh my goodness," said his wife. And for a second time she ran. The undertaker came running faster than she did, and he sat down by the bed, and he said to the miser, Have you made arrangements? He gestured to his wife. He couldn't believe that she'd eaten all 3 chickens. 1, 2, 3. This was a woman that was supposed to cost him nothing, and she had eaten 3 chickens. All 3. I think, said the undertaker, that this man has no will. My dear, go fetch the lawyer. Off she went. In back came the lawyer, the 3rd person to be brought into the room. 1, 2, 3. He sat down by the bed and he got out some very official-looking documents. And he brandished a pen. And he said to the miser, have you made a will? I don't think he has, she said. You better ask him. What does he own? 3 tenements. Sir, he said, your 3 tenements. You have to leave them to someone in your will. Who do you want to leave them to? And he pointed to his wife and he said, thinking about the birds, all 3. All 3. All 3 tenements to be left to the good lady wife. Okay, what about your 3 mines? Sir, everyone knows about the mines. To whom do you wish them to be left? All 3 to be left to the good lady wise. Ah, yes, there's the mills, sir. Who do you wish to leave them to? All 3. And so they were left to her as wine. Well, as were the 3 country houses, the 3 racing stallions which had been bred to excellence, and the 3 chariots which were rumoured to be gilded with gold. The old man died, and no one mourned him, let alone his wife. She took that money. The widow and her 3 children, 1, 2, 3, soon had smiles on their face. She saw those 3 tenements, damp, dusty, dark. She had them bulldozed, and in their place were beautiful country cottages where the families that worked in the mills, that worked in the mines, lived healthy, happy lives with a small plot of land to grow their own vegetable and keep their own animals. The 3 country cottages, the 3 breeding stallions, and the 3 gold carriages, or so it was rumoured, were sold, and the money was spent to open up schools and a small hospital and to train up nurses, doctors, and teachers. And at the end of it all, do you know what she was left with? 3 shillings. And she got up that day, having signed everything over to the town, and she left with a big smile on her face, 3 coins in her pocket. All 3. How far would they take her? What would she find next? My name is Pauline Cordiner. Follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, and you can follow my webpage as well, and stay tuned for other stories that I'll be telling soon. Thank you and good night.